back in open session. And it gives me enormous pleasure tonight to introduce for the first time at our board table, Dr. Claude Tiller, our new superintendent. Dr. Tiller, it's been a long road to get you to this table. And it's my pleasure today to welcome you and look forward to working with you. So we're going to move on in our agenda. Let's see here. The next, so we're on, oh, wait a minute. We have someone from our ICSC. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Chanel Leopold from Pearl High School.
I'll do it. There you go. Please feel free to speak up during the meeting with questions or anything you'd like to share. So, okay, we're still in our special board meeting, so we're going to go on to action items. The first item under action items is the modification of the table of organization. Would someone please read the motion? Go ahead, Nancy.
I move that the table of organization be modified to add the position of Associate Superintendent of Continuous School Improvement, 12 months, Administrative Salary Group 1A, $147,162 to $171,118 as presented be approved.
Second.
Okay, discussion, questions. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I think having a person in this position is important. Although for me to be able to approve a high-level administrative position like this, I would need to know that there's not, that there's not a net increase in administration. So if I could just get some information on what positions will be removed or not filled.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. On this proposed org chart, we are not backfilling the Chief Human Resource Officer, so it will be net neutral.
Was the Chief Human Resource Officer 1A?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So going forward in an atmosphere of budget cuts, I'm probably looking for a net decline rather than just a net neutral, but the importance of this position is such that if we are trading a 1A for a 1A, that I am comfortable voting yes. Thank you.
Any other questions for Vicki? Who, by the way, is now our deputy superintendent. Go ahead, Lynn.
Can you explain the change in the under Executive Director of School Leadership Development and Support? The last one had 3 people who were Director of Elementary and Secondary Education, all 3 of them. This one has 2 people as Director of Elementary Education and 2 as Director of Secondary Education, which adds a position. I don't understand that.
It's actually shifting a position. We had a Director of Innovative Schools, Renee Every, who just retired, and we're transitioning that position into a Director of Secondary. So they'll split the responsibilities between our traditional secondary schools as well as the innovative schools. The innovative schools, for those that might be unfamiliar to that term, that would be our charter schools, as well as Da Vinci and Aldo. Minoka. Thank you.
And sorry, this is a real basic question. I assume you do this every July, and this is because it's the beginning of the fiscal year. And can I assume that our new superintendent was part of this, or I mean, how does that work when you're getting a new superintendent at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Dr. Tiller wouldn't let me do anything without him first having some say. So we've been collaborating since May, actually shortly after the board made their decision. So yes, he's played a role in this.
May I ask him how he feels about it?
So, like Vicky said, we had been collaborating on this. We also have a transitional team here report that's going to be given to, that's going to also look at our organizational chart moving forward as well. So we're going to make sure we have all type of lenses looking at this particular piece moving forward. So I'm in support of it.
So as a follow-up, just so I can assume then that this is not carved in stone for the rest of the school year. This could change.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or any other discussion? Okay, I think we can take a vote. Kinsey,
Online voting is now open.
Lynn, do you want to do a voice vote for now? Okay,
I don't know what's wrong.
I bet you'll probably get the next one.
Gerlach,
Yes.
all votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
I move that the employment of staff as presented be approved.
Second,
discussion, questions? Kinsey,
Online voting is now open.
I'll vote yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
guys, don't have my normal microphone, so mine's just like everyone else's tonight, so just be patient with me. We just voted to hire Mr. David Johns, who's in our audience tonight, as our Associate Superintendent of Continuous School Improvement. Welcome aboard. Would you like to come up and just sort of introduce yourself and let folks know kind of a little bit about you? Your position is going to be such a huge one in our district, so why don't you just go ahead. Press the little button that looks like a face.
Did I pass my first test? Okay, thank you. Good evening and thank you very much. I appreciate the trust you placed in me and the precious resources of this community that you've invested in this role. I am so excited and so thankful to become part of the Green Bay community, contribute to the incredibly important work of teaching the children of this community to become everything that the mission of this organization says your children can become. And so I'm going to become part of you and part of the work, and just thankful and appreciative for all that you've done. I've been involved in school improvement for many, many years, working as a teacher leader in that capacity while I've taught, working as a curriculum coordinator when I've worked in central office places, working as a school principal who understands the pull and the demands and the challenges, but also the great reward of the work of leading schools and leading students and teachers to higher levels of success. Really excited to be a part of the work. Thankful to you, thankful to my family for supporting me as I pursued this and the changes that'll be ahead from us as we become part of this community.
Do you have somebody with you tonight?
My wife Laura is here, and she'll love that I'm introducing her right now. We came in late yesterday afternoon. I spent a fantastic day in this building, getting to know new members of the team. And I would just say the sense of preparation and anticipation for next school year, just by seeing how engaged every single person that I encountered today was. This is full steam ahead. This is a team who is completely oriented to bigger and better things. And just being on site with them all today has been incredibly rewarding.
Well, thank you and welcome to Green Bay, and welcome to you, Laura. Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to B, resignation of staff. Would someone please read the motion?
I move that the resignation of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Kinsey.
Online voting is now open.
Kinsey, are you still waiting for? Okay,
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
very good. Okay, and the last action item for this meeting, transfer of staff. Could someone please read the motion?
I move that the transfer of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Any discussion, any questions? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open. All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Right. That ends our special board meeting. Could someone make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Do you have to take a vote on that, Kinsey? Just a voice vote? All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. We're adjourned. We're going to go immediately into our next meeting. Okay. So this is our work session. I'm just gonna thank you all. Do we have to power down and power up again? Okay. Okay. So we don't have to start a new meeting? All right, very good. Okay, then I'm welcoming you all officially to this work session. Um, I have a roll call on the agenda, so I guess we need to do another roll call. Go ahead, Kinsey.
McCoy,
Here.
Gerlach,
Here.
Mills.
Here.
Welch,
Here.
Becker,
Here.
Leighton and Warren,
Here.
Lyerly.
Here.
All board members are present. We're going to move on then to the public forum. I have two people. If there's anyone else in the audience who wants to speak, fill out a form and get it to Kinsey. Other than that, I've got two people, so we'll start in the order that they were submitted. The first person is Yolo Diaz. If you would just state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Yeah, can you keep
So
time?
my name is Yolo Diaz. My address is 11.
I think your microphone, yeah,
Hear
Yep.
me better?
I don't think it's turned on.
Oh.
There.
So my name is Yolo Diaz and my address is 1122 Pleasant Valley Drive, Hobart, Wisconsin. Welcome, Dr. Tiller, and good evening, board members. From the outset, NULET has emphasized the considerable flaws in the adopted process for the work of the Facilities Task Force. The district fell short of its obligation to investigate all options thoroughly, and its community engagement efforts needed to be more robust. These critical errors led to the endorsement of a plan that does not serve our schools or our children well. Consider the public forum aimed at discussing Schema 12.1. The ineffective moderation by district members and consulting firm officials resulted in chaotic and unproductive discussions where various stakeholders repeatedly stated that they were left out. This event further damaged the already shaky public trust. These concerns are not confined to our community members. Even school board members are questioning the consulting firm's competence. This lack of confidence is a warning that we cannot rely on this firm to guide our school's future. Take the example of board member Lynn Gerlach, who openly criticized the consulting firm during the June 26th board meeting. The uncertainty surrounding our schools is causing our valued educators to consider seeking refuge in other institutions. Losing some of our most talented teachers would undermine the district's ability to attract and maintain high-quality educators. This is especially harmful to the Green Bay community, given the school teacher shortages experienced throughout the state and nationally. Beyond these points, it's crucial to acknowledge the significant distress and anxiety that Schema 12.1 is inflicting on students and parents. This uncertainty about our school's future is a heavy burden for everyone involved. Similarly, board member Nancy Welch during the June 5th meeting expressed her reservations explicitly, highlighting the lack of suitable space for children with disabilities in their proposed shift of students from Tank Elementary School to Fort Howard Elementary School. This issue, which Superintendent Vicky Bayer subsequently acknowledged at the June 26th meeting, presents a clear-cut example of the hurdles inherent in even one element of the numerous changes proposed under Schema 12.1. This realization underscores the need for altogether reconsidering and discontinuing this problematic initiative. We strongly urge the board to abandon Schema 12.1. All of us must focus on creating a path that ensures a secure educational setting for our students and teachers. Newlet asserts that a renewed strategy is necessary to tackle the challenges presented by the process associated with Schema 12.1. We also believe that this change will come to fruition under the vigilant leadership of our new superintendent, Dr. Tiller. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next,
Madam Chairman, do I understand correctly that if we are named by a speaker that we are able to respond? No?
Is it illegal or is it just a practice?
If we're not posted on the agenda for matters that are addressed in public comment, we can't address the comments during open session. We can post for at a subsequent meeting, but we have to give proper notice on the agenda with respect to matters that will be discussed by the board.
Aren't we posted every single meeting for discussion about the whole closure stuff?
this particular meeting, because we have kind of a light agenda and there wasn't really any updates from Josh. We kind of talked about it and decided for this particular meeting. But going forward, it'll be on the agenda.
Okay, will it? Because it was going to be on the agenda for every meeting.
My understanding was it was going to be on the regular agenda. Or was it supposed to be on the work? Okay.
I'll make a motion next time. Obviously, I'll have to do that.
Go ahead.
If you would indulge me, that is why I asked that it be on the agenda, because I knew I had been absolutely misquoted in the Press Gazette, and I was hoping to have an opportunity to clarify that publicly. Now I can't.
Again, my apologies. Okay, we're going to move on to Sally Walls Pereira. Please state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
And put on the cheaters, right? Sally Walls Pereira, 2560 North Trillium Circle. Good evening. I'm here to formally raise the issue of the vacated Southwest High School and Lombardi Middle School orchestra director position being filled by a band director. I'm speaking on behalf of a group of parents from both schools. I know you all have many decisions to make, but we're asking that you consider the facts and the possible outcomes for the program if this goes forward. To provide a little background, teaching instrumental music education in Wisconsin requires that you obtain a bachelor's in music education. Within this major, there are many differences with regard to area of specialty. It's my understanding that the curriculum is structured so that a music major who plays the clarinet would only be required to take 1 semester of a strings method class. That would be 3 weeks on violin, 3 weeks on viola, 3 weeks on cello, and 3 weeks on string bass. Technically, that undergraduate degree with only 1 semester of string instruction would be sufficient to teach orchestra at any level. The point I'd like to illustrate is that meeting a minimum requirement doesn't prepare one to demonstrate or teach at a high level. Practically speaking, paper qualifications are not a suitable replacement for extensive training and knowledge. In this specific case, we're talking about someone whose main instrument is the clarinet, as opposed to a string instrument like the violin. Students in the chamber orchestra at Southwest have been playing for up to 7 years. A teacher without an emphasis in string instruments will simply not be able to move them forward. I want to make sure we are especially clear on one point. We don't find the hiring of the band director objectionable because we don't like the candidate. She is loved by her students and her passion for the band is evident. We simply want an orchestra teacher teaching the orchestra. It's our understanding that when this position was initially posted as an orchestra director for Southwest High School and Lombardi Middle School, it garnered the interest of several qualified candidates around the state. We've been told that later the job description was changed to Lombardi only, and the addition of a general music position at Alu Leopold was added. When applicants were contacted and told what the new posting included, they respectfully declined. Southwest is the only high school in the district with more kids in the orchestra program than in the band. It is thriving and robust. Lombardi Middle School has become a solid introductory platform from which students leave ready to contribute in high school. We owe this to exemplary leadership over the last 7 years. And while it's not always possible to hire an employee with vision and a base of knowledge from which to build something of excellence, that should certainly be the goal. When word of this hire got out, there was an immediate reaction from the orchestra students and their parents. Anecdotally, students are saying they will drop this class because keep in mind, this is a class, not a club. We expect program numbers to drop. When told of the situation, my son, who's a senior, said matter-of-factly, well, that's not going to work. When I asked what he wanted to do, he said, there's probably no point in taking the class. Regardless of whether or not we like the new director, there will be kids who don't believe she has the skills to advance their learning. There's one other thing I'd like us to just keep in mind about this group. The Southwest Orchestra is made up of some of our highest achievers, both in academics and athletics. They have made room in their busy schedules for orchestra. They have weighted against AP classes that were only offered at one time in the school day, missed sporting events, and shuffled dual credit classes to make it all work. They love the music and they love this group. Let us also not forget how colleges feel about well-rounded students. These kids consistently do us proud as a district, and they need us to support them now. In closing, I've been thinking about the Green Bay Area Public Schools and Southwest High School mission statements: to educate all students to be college, career, and community ready and inspired to succeed in our world, and Southwest High School, with the support of families and the surrounding community, is dedicated to providing an educational environment where students are challenged, excellence is expected, and differences are valued. Where students are challenged and excellence is expected. We need an orchestra teacher teaching the orchestra at Southwest. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to under education. We have student academic standards, and we're going to hear from Nancy Chartier.
Good evening. As we come before you every July, the state law requires that the district provide parents and guardians of all enrolled students notice of the academic standards in mathematics, science, reading, writing, geography, history that have been adopted by the school board and that will be in effect during each school year. As we had presented before in policy 330, the school board also outlines that our learning standards be aligned to these standards. So this evening, I'm bringing forward the recommendation for the standards that all of our work is aligned to. Would be the Wisconsin state standards for all of those areas and the Wisconsin model early learning standards for the early childhood or the early learning program, the pre-K program. This will require action.
Okay. Are there any questions? I know this is somewhat of a formality every year. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. I'm gonna completely put Nancy on the spot. Do you think they're good?
Funny you should ask. Okay, well, thank you, Andrew. I wasn't going to say anything by now. I was pretty worried about them, and being a Head Start liaison person, it just adds to my concern about how hard we are pushing the young children. I worry that we are actually doing, them a disservice in pushing the curriculum down that far by having them as 4K kids have to know their letters, and then kindergarten, you should have it mastered, and all of the phonemes. And it seems like when I was teaching first grade, it is now kindergarten and 4K. And so we're pushing these kids so hard that it is actually detrimental. And I found that in my volunteer work at Martin, in the first grade classroom, that I saw things that I had never seen before going back to first grade. And it was that, there would always be like a B and a D, reversal. Well, now it's M and W, and it's S and C. They weren't able so young to get something so strong in their brains that there's some more confusion now. And the printing and you need to print in order to write and to spell and all of those things. And I feel this is something we really need to look at. And looking into this reference link that you had, we just did these last year, evidently, for the Wisconsin Model Early Learning Standards. So I guess we okayed that last year, that they were good standards.
Correct. At the district level, we don't write standards. And if we were to write our own standards, they'd have to be approved by the Department of Public Instruction. These are the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction body of standards.
Yes, but there is a process that as a district, we can look at it and say, we have some concerns about how far we're pushing the curriculum down, and we could actually get a letter. Lynn, can you help me with that? Because you saw that too.
I just know that Nancy very graciously sent me this link and advised me about the timetable. And so we all could look at it and find the timetable because it was in the packet. And I saw that the early childhood and early literacy standards were approved last year statewide, and that there is a process by which teachers can be part of the conversation, but I don't know like how many years it'll be before that comes back again. Do you know that?
That's very difficult to answer depending on the body of standards. It could be anywhere between 8 years, 12 years. It's quite lengthy period of time. I know nothing less than 6 years that you would revisit a body of standards. But that's all determined by the Department of Public Instruction. Changes to the federal laws in each of the content areas often provoke or bring forward changes to the state standards. And you are correct in saying that the body of standards are reviewed by teachers and solicited by the Department of Public Instruction. We've had several of our teachers serve on those committees in the past.
Brian.
It's my understanding also anything that would come from the legislator, from the governor, would then have to be implemented by DPI regarding the big picture changes that would possibly address the concerns that you've had before regarding that topic. So it may be addressed by the state, but that's not really our pond to be in with this, correct?
That is correct. The state standards set what we have to align our learning standards to. It's not vice versa, where they give us a set of standards and then we set our learning standards, our learning expectations to another level. And keep in mind that all of our state assessments are aligned to these body of standards.
I have a follow-up that, as is anything that the state determines, we have our ability as individual board members to contact our state legislators and give our input on that, and to contact the state superintendent and give our input on that as well, that there's mechanisms available for us to influence the feedback on that on an ongoing basis, not necessarily just when the standards are being approved. So.
Andrew.
I'd like to request unanimous consent to vote separately on the early childhood learning standards. Oh, okay. I would like to request that it be split separate from the rest of it for next week. So early childhoods and then the other ones all together.
So this requirement is not voting on accepting the standards, it's voting on the statutory obligation to post standards. So we are required by the legislature to post them. So if we don't post them, we're not in compliance with our statutory obligation to post the standards. Whether you agree with the standards is a separate issue, but that would not be part of the motion regarding the posting.
Okay, so these were adopted at a different time and we're just posting them? Or is this an adoption and a posting?
This is to meet our statutory obligation to post our standards on the website.
which are the Department of Public Instruction's Wisconsin standards. So they wrote, each body of standards is, you follow will have been written in various years, different years. And so what we're legally obligated to do is to post so that the parents of and guardians of students in our district know which body of standards that we will be following. This, we don't develop the standards in-house. And if we were to develop them, they would have to then be approved by the Department of Public Instruction in order for us to even bring them forth to the posting of them and the approval by you.
Lynn. I was gonna say Nancy could go first. So I understand, excuse me, we're just gonna vote to post these, and that makes perfect sense. But based on what Brian said, I'm getting the impression that there is that if you are unhappy with any of these standards, and I don't just mean unhappy, but professionally think that it needs to be different, there are ways to influence that. Am I understanding that? We don't have to wait for 6 years. There's some way to influence it.
Regarding the posting and the standards that we're talking about on there, the governor and the assembly and the Senate have talked about making possible changes to standards and ways things are taught. And the state superintendent goes through the standards process. So there's, with all of them being elected officials, there's always ways to contact them. And there's other groups that'll advocate on certain opportunities that influence public education. And not speaking for you, my guess is that those concerns are being addressed by other parties that us as a Green Bay School Board, we're not going to be able to necessarily change. That's going to be an issue that's changed down in Madison by our state policymakers. Does that answer your question?
James.
So Nancy, just to kind of sum this up or make a discrete question, have you in your experience over your tenure seen a comment process accelerate the writing and adoption of additional standards, or is the ability to take feedback from teachers just part of a standard process which leads to changes about every 6 years? Have you seen an accelerated, not by the governor or legislature, but by the feedback channel that's posted, an acceleration of change in the standards?
I have not in my tenure.
Thank you. Just to make sure that we're clear that it's not I have an issue and therefore there is going to be some acceleration of change. These are standard feedback channels that exist as part of the feedback process.
Go ahead, Nancy.
So I don't even know if this is possible, but the state has a process for review and updating of the standards. I am concerned specifically about these early childhood standards. And since I am tasked with the Head Start program, I'd like to offer a motion. Am I allowed to do that? Next meeting.
So we're getting a little bit off topic. The sole topic for this agenda item is simply the posting of the standards, not our agreement, disagreement, what we like, what we don't like. This is simply to comply with our legislative requirement of posting of standards.
And I would just like to add one more little bit then, because I know the Assembly has passed a bill, AB 321, and they are kind of doing the same things they always do when they're telling teachers what to do. And I would like to know how many people were educators that were doing that, Bill. So it seems, I know I'm a little off, but
I don't want to be the public meetings police. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a very important, I think we all recognize that it's an important topic that you're talking about. And I mean, we're at the mercy of politicians so often when we're taking votes like this. Go ahead, Lynn.
Just a question. So I'm ready to vote on this and approve this and we can post it. But if someone like Nancy has a concern like that, that doesn't belong in this meeting, is there some way that she can get it on the agenda for next meeting? I don't know how that works, but
Go ahead, Brian.
I would anticipate that that would be something that we'd have a discussion and would be taking through a voting process with motions and such as far as concerns individually on it when the vote comes up. So that's just my opinion on it. So.
Can you explain? No, okay. Okay. So here, we're gonna take this vote. Not today. Maybe, I don't know what let's talk about this off stage. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what to do about it. But we can't talk about it. We should stop now. Sorry. Okay. Are there any other questions or discussion about the motion or about this item for Nancy? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Nancy. All right. Next on our agenda under policy and governance is independent hearing officer resolution for expulsions. This is another item that we have to readdress every year. So take it away, Melissa.
Thank you. Under the statutory language with respect to the board's authority to expel students is the opportunity to have an independent hearing officer conduct the hearing, who then makes the recommendation to the board, and then it's the board's decision whether to adopt that recommendation or make changes or reject the hearing officer's recommendation. We were forced to move to this sort of format a number of years ago with respect to the changes to Title IX, because if there is any expulsion on the basis of a student committing a violation of Title IX, that the individual has to be trained and certified in Title IX decision-making authority. And that is a very difficult process for a 7-member school board. So we moved to the hearing officer. Actually, we've been complimented by parents and staff that the hearing officer format is a very positive change, in that the hearings are put forward in the best light, and the students and families are given a good opportunity in the course of that and provided due process in the course of that hearing. So we're coming back again with that recommendation that we continue with that independent hearing officer. The two individuals that have been serving, Attorney Danielle Karn and Attorney Dean Dietrich, are willing to continue. And I can speak from my experience, they are very respectful and do a very nice job with our families and explaining the process and honoring our families and being able to present information in the course of those hearings.
Melissa, would I be off track here if I asked you about, I know there were changes coming to Title IX that were going to be, there were changes and then there were changes back in that process. Is that, can you talk about that at all? Like, I don't know what the status is on that.
So the changes we're expecting to Title IX will not affect the expulsion process. We're anticipating they will be formalized at the end of this year, but we don't anticipate it will change the expulsion process, and we wouldn't change midstream in the course of the school year then.
I remember you warning us that it was going to be a long process to change them back. And that was a while ago, so it's proving to be very true. So, okay, anybody have any questions for Melissa? Okay, thank you. All right, that's the end of our agenda for tonight. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
You have been watching the Green Bay Area Public School District's Board of Education meeting. Please visit the school district's website, www.gbaps.org, for more information on the district and future meeting dates. If you cannot fully access the information on this video, please let us know the accessibility issue you are having by calling 920-448-2025 or by email at communications@gbaps.org. We will try to provide the information to you in an alternative format and/or make the necessary improvements to make the information accessible.